All right. All right, everybody. Welcome again. My name is Kathy Burrell, and I'm an entrepreneur in residence here at WBC. My background is in fashion design. I was a clothing wholesaler and then a clothing retailer with a couple of stores in the Lower Mainland in BC. Before we get started, I'd like to just acknowledge that today we're gathered on the traditional and unceded territory of the Okanagan Syilx people, and we recognize and honor and respect the presence of Indigenous people past, present, and future. So welcome, everyone. We're going to do a feedback poll after the webinar today too. And, we want to offer a webinar that people are interested in. So if during the feedback poll, you think of a topic that you think would be great for us, we would love to have you put that into the feedback poll at the end. Okay, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what we offer here at WBC. We offer business loans up to $150,000 to start a business, grow a business, or purchase a viable business here in BC. And we also start lending at $5,000. So it's not like you have to come to us and want a big whack of money. We offer business advice through our business advisors. And this business advice is for a woman that is just thinking about a business, a woman that's been in business for 3 years, or a woman that's been in business for 25 years. So anytime you're interested, just call client service. Netta will put the link into the chat, and just ask to speak to a business advisor, and we can do that. Make an appointment, and you will have 1 hour virtually, either via Zoom or on telephone, to talk to a business advisor about your business. We also offer skills development workshops. Similar, today is a webinar, it's a wee cafe, but we also offer business development workshops on topics of every description. We do marketing, we do how to do a website, we do HR series on how to hire and fire people. We do financial fitness series, so a little bit of everything. We're here to help you with your business at WBC. We also offer mentoring connections. So if any of you are in business more than 2 years, we'd love you to check out our mentoring page on our website. We do one-to-one mentoring for a 6-month period. We also do group mentoring where 6 or 7 women get together with a facilitator like myself, and we go one by one through your business questions and queries, opportunities, challenges. And the great part is you get to hear interesting sort of perspectives from 6 other women. So if you're interested in mentoring, we have a great program. Last but not least, we offer a supportive community. A lot of women they start a business, but they don't think of anything but doing the business. And you really need a supportive community to keep going in your business. And WBC is here to help you. Does anybody have any questions about any of that before I go on? Okay.
Actually, a question in chat, Kathy.
Go ahead.
What are the typical interest rates on your loans?
Oh, that's a great question. And I wish I worked in loans. No, I don't. But anyway, what we do is we assess the strength of your business by seeing your business plan and your cash flow, and we give you an interest rate according to that. If your loan looks like it's going to be higher risk, we charge you more interest. If it's lower risk, we charge you less interest. And if you're interested in more information on loans, go to the business loans information session. You can sign up on our website. It's every second Tuesday at 12 noon. Hope that answers your question. Okay, so I think we're going to get started. So today's webinar is going to be a really interesting discussion. I mean, if you're nervous about the future, really you're not alone. The amount of information out there that is pro-recession, anti-recession, it's crazy making. The last few years have not been easy for business people in BC or anywhere in the world. And we're not quite sure what the economic future holds. So we'd like to talk with some women that have been there and done that. We want to really give you some support today with regards to resources you can use, you know, if there is a downturn, and just some real life examples from women that have been there. So today I would like to introduce our two panelists, and there was a third panelist, and I'm sorry to say that she had to bow out today, but we will share her email. And if anybody wants to get a hold of her directly, she will, or you can. And we will also share Tara and Paula's emails in the chat as well, or in the follow-up email. So first up is Tara Black, and Tara Black is a WeBC regional ambassador and the owner of Gluten or Origin Gluten-Free Bakery. And then we've got Paula Vima, who is the owner of the Spa Magnolia and Pure Stem Beauty. So yeah, I'm going to stop my screen share and we're going to get to chatting. I am going to stop my screen share. Oops, stop share. Okie dokie, there we go. So I think we'll start with just having Tara and Paula introduce themselves. So Tara, can you tell us about yourself, how you got into business, and a little bit about your business, please?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Tara. I'm the owner and I'm the co-founder of Origin Gluten-Free Bakery, and we're turning 14. Yeah, turning 14 on March 1st. So been around for a little while. How I got into my business. I wanted to create foods for people that needed them in a way that kept them safe, but also was a little bit more financially responsible. Gluten-free foods over a decade ago were not that appealing, but they were quite expensive. So myself and at the time my business partner kind of realized we could probably do a better job at making sure it was tasty and at least not throwing the food into your garbage can when you didn't want to finish it. That was the basic premise, was making food accessible and tasty for the people in our community. I decided to do it because I had 2 young kids at the time, and a lot of people thought that being an entrepreneur meant that I would be sacrificing all my personal time in order to run a business, and it was quite the opposite. I was in an executive level career job at a hotel in town, and I was pulling 60 to 70 hours a week. And I realized if I was doing my own thing, I could actually be doing much less hours, probably make the same amount of money, and definitely get to have more control over the time with my kids. My kids are now 18 and 20, so it's worked out. That's my snippet.
Great, thank you, Tara. Paula?
Hi, everyone. Hi, my name is Paula. I'm the owner of the Spa Magnolia in Victoria, which I've had now for 20 years. And 10 years ago, started a distribution company, Pure Stem Beauty, just wanting to learn a whole other part of the beauty industry. I actually didn't start out in the beauty industry. I was sales in the commercial printing industry when I lived in Ontario, and then moved to BC and ended up joining a role with a beauty industry brand as their sales manager, territory manager, and then really just found, finally, at 34 years old at the time, what I really loved to do. And so then after I worked for them for a few years, decided to, after teaching other people how to run their business, that I thought, I want to do this myself. And so took over the Spa Magnolia, which was in financial disrepair when I first purchased it. It was going to go under, and so being able to go through over the years, and we can get into that about the timely story of, as I was growing and looking for financial support and couldn't get it in that financial downturn of 2008, 2009. But yeah, happy to share my experiences over the years, because it's definitely been a major growth learning experience, even just not just professionally, but personally as well. So there's, a lot of things to go through after 20 years. So happy to answer anybody's questions.
Great. So I guess the question that we're going to sort of kick off with is the idea of, why should you even bother planning for a financial downturn in your business? Like, when you think of running your business, do you think of looking at your sales, every day, every month, every year? And if you see things slowing down, then you do something? Or are you the kind of person that watches the news and looks at everything and thinks, I think I'm going to, put on a sale, or I'm going to, reach out to my customers and see, how they're feeling? Like, either of you, go ahead. If anyone's got some ideas about the benefits or the no benefits to planning, when you're thinking about, is there going to be a recession?
I mean, I can definitely just share, though, at how I even got involved with Women's Enterprise was, after I purchased the business, 5 years into it, the opportunity came to move into the building next door. I was going to be doubling my space. It was a huge renovation. It was a big commitment, and had no idea at the time through this planning how suddenly financially things were going to change. And so going to the banks to be able to finance what I was going to need to move forward with this project all came back with all the banks. Nobody would lend me anything because I had 5 years of business growth to be able to show, but it wasn't enough considering what the economic environment was at the time. And so it was really, really stressful. I reached out to Women's Enterprise and borrowed the maximum amount, which at that time, then once the banks could see that someone had faith in me, that they were able to come up with the rest of what I needed. So it was really exhausting, all of the resources, and there wasn't even a lot of time to be able to just plan. That came on fairly suddenly. At the time that I had agreed to move forward with it, that it wasn't even, I didn't even really contemplate the banks all saying no to me. So yeah, didn't really have a lot of time to plan.
And Tara, you were going to say something as well.
Oh, I was going to say, I think if you have the opportunity to plan, then do it. I mean, it doesn't hurt. Sometimes we procrastinate because we're a little bit tired or we're overwhelmed, but having a plan, or at least an idea of how you want to go about things, gives you the capabilities of being able to switch directions rather than being reactive. When you sit down to create a plan, whether it's in intention to do something like what Paula was doing, like there's an opportunity for this renovation and it has to be in the moment that you're doing it. When you do the plan itself, it gives you the opportunity to sit down and think about how many different ways could this plan work out. What if the banks say yes? What if they say no? Like, what if the contractors get midway through the job and the materials double in price? Or, like, when you have the opportunity to sit down and come up with the time to just think about where things could go, you kind of have the opportunity then to pick and choose and be much less reactive when something's going to veer off course, because it's a guarantee something is going to go off course. And it's better to be able to have the time to be reflective about it before you find yourself in that situation.
Great comment, Tara. And, my situation was I had a store in Abbotsford for 15 years and decided I ended up with a commercial space in White Rock. And I opened my second store. I just assumed that the bank would give me more money, more of an operating line, having 2 stores. And because I had a mortgage, they expected me to run 2 stores with the same operating line. like the line of credit that I was doing. Yeah. And that never occurred to me. And, like when you talk about planning, like when you think about it, again, this is the point of this discussion, is the idea of, what if that happens, or what if, and we've already been through 2 years of COVID. So anybody have any questions? I mean, regarding planning or anything like that? Or I'll throw out another question and we can chat about that. Okay, so I'm going to say that pivoting is kind of a post-pandemic buzzword. We all had to change our lives during COVID. And if you had a business, you had to change your business life as well. Terry, you can start us off this time. Can you tell us a time in your business where you chose to pivot, or it was sort of forced on you? Like, did your business run exactly the same way, sort of, or did you find,
Yeah, pivoting. I think I've become a master at this point. I think anybody whose business is actually still operating has probably become a master at pivoting. Whether it's within your professional life or your personal life, it's taken a lot of wherewithal from almost anyone to just stay in the game. And if you've had the privilege to stay operating, like your doors are still open, then you've probably gained a lot of resiliency and muscle. So congratulations to anybody who's in this operating zone. Pivoting. Well, we found ourselves in a really unique position. In the fall of 2019, our company had 0 debt. We had a lot of capital. Our bank accounts looked super healthy and happy. I mean, honestly, everything you want in business, that's how it was going. It was fantastic. We had 2 locations. One was a placeholder. We knew that we wanted to choose a different spot in the West Shore, and one had become available. The people we wanted to work with in order to create the spot were available. So, everything worked. We had a plan. We had a great business plan. We had a long-standing record with Women's Enterprise and with a couple other organizations. So they felt confident that this was a good move too. Everybody felt like this was a really good move. We were paying attention to the news. However, SARS, we've dealt with that. Mad cow disease, we've dealt with that, right? So yes, we saw that this COVID thing was a thing, but no more than any other thing. We opened up the brand new cafe using all of our capital, taking on a bunch of debt, and we opened in the mid-January of 2020. We got the store up and running. Everything was great. I went to Hawaii for a week and a half. That was fantastic. I came home, and a week later, we shut down the cafe and we closed the bakery. And that was the biggest pivot I've ever lived through. It was everything opposite to any plan that we'd ever had the opportunity to exercise. And it required, it's a really good thing. I love amusement parks. I love rides. I love roller coasters. And it felt like I was sprinting through Disneyland, like getting on one ride after another and not quite ever sure which ride was going to happen next. It was exhausting, but I learned a lot. I learned so much, in fact, that I decided I needed more tools, and I decided to go to school. So I actually just recently finished doing my MBA after while pivoting throughout COVID, because COVID taught me that all the skills that I'd had gained over my career, and I mean, I've got a lot of them. I've been working for a long time. They just weren't quite deep enough to show me that there is so much more creativity. And if I had a deeper toolkit, I could do more with it. So the pivoting was, what kind of education can I get in order to enable my staff and my leadership with them to really get us through to still be here and say 5 years from now and not still be struggling with the aftermath of COVID, because COVID's been hard, but honestly, it's going to be these next 2 years that are actually going to be the biggest difference in our business communities. So I think it's important that people don't just breathe a sigh of relief and really actually take the time to realize you have an opportunity to really change how we do business, and to understand that pivoting, although it's a great buzzword, it should be the thing that keeps your creativity going. That's quite
Fantastic.
important.
Yeah. I mean, way to, take apples and make apple cider there. I mean, the idea is once you're in it, and Paula, you could probably speak to this as well. Like once the process starts that you have to change, I mean, yeah, like your brain is going 24 hours a day, and it's not as easy, but no one could have planned for COVID. So, like 61 half a dozen the other. Paula, what about you? What was a big pivot for you?
Yeah, I think that, definitely through COVID, one of the, I think it's definitely just taught me as well, though, that no matter how long you've been in business or how well your business is going, that um, that you do have to just be able to understand how vulnerable it can be, depending on what your business is, what you offer, and how how certain things that are beyond your control can start to affect that, and then how you're going to address that, rather than like in a really constructive way, rather than necessarily just being reactive. I mean, I think for me, I mean, when we closed, had to close our doors, and I kept going downtown to just visit and see, and and it was a ghost town, which was just really surreal. And I just thought, wow, like after 18 years, to think that's it, my business could be worth nothing.
Mhm.
That's really scary. To just think what that fear of sort of the unknown. But I didn't actually stop working, which I think if I could go back, maybe I would have taken a couple of weeks off, but I didn't, because at our distribution company, we were then, I thought, okay, we can deliver orders to people in town. I was out driving around delivering orders to people. What can we do to, to still, I was, coming here to the warehouse, and just trying to put other plans in place there. And I think, and then put together when I knew that we were going to reopen, we were doing weekly Zoom calls with my team so that everyone was keeping in touch with each other. And all of my team came back. We, as far as a really comprehensive reopening plan, how were we going to be best prepared for the client experience when they were allowed to come back? That made all the difference as well, of just really having a really comprehensive plan. So, I mean, and having gotten through COVID, really well, in terms of considering we're a service-based industry. I'm still always, and then in the middle of the pandemic, bringing in a whole new line, brought a whole new line into distribution in the fall of 2020, while we were still in this pandemic, which has now turned out to be one of the best things, that we did too. So to still not be afraid to continue to move forward with what can still be a really great addition to your business.
Yeah, great comments. I mean, when I had my store in Abbotsford, I actually moved once, because what I didn't realize was as the economy was softening, there were fewer people around my store in the evening because the restaurant had closed. So I ended up being broken into 3 times in 2 months, and right around Christmas. The last time, they burrowed through the empty spot next to me, through the drywall, and stole like $10,000 worth of jeans. And I remember thinking to myself, like, how am I, you think, how are you going to recover? How do you pivot from that when you know that you're going to sell this product and it's no longer, available? But again, there's something to be said for the idea that, there are resources out there. My clients came to my aid. They were like, oh, don't worry, I'll prepay you for 3 pairs of jeans. And can you just order them for me? Or I will, don't worry, my brother-in-law is in security and he's going to come and give you a free quote on a big gate for your front window. I mean, it was pretty incredible. And then there were, I talked to the local chamber of commerce. I talked to, at that point, there was Retail BC, and they were, everyone was wonderful. And again, if one thing I think that we've learned through COVID is there are people out there that can feel your pain and know, sort of, gee, this worked for me and maybe this would work for you. So yeah. Anybody have any comments or questions for Tara or Paula at this point in the discussion? I've seen a lot of 24 comments in the chat, so I'm glad everybody's chatting.
Yes, Kathy, we have a very interesting discussion in chat. It's all with a very good question. Given the current economic climate, do you think it's a wise time to start a business, or would waiting it out to see what happens be a wiser approach? And looking at the discussion here, I think it's a good time for us to start discussing essential services and products versus luxury products.
Oh, that's interesting. Actually, I've got to say that I think, honestly, if you're looking at starting a business, doing it in a recession is probably the smartest way to go about it. And the reason why I say that, it's twofold. If you're going to do this, then it gives you the opportunity to plan for the worst economical situation you could be in.
Yeah.
It is everybody's worst economical situation. They're the most tight and most conservative with how they're going to choose to spend money. And if it's on your product, it means that they have the opportunity to really invest in you. And that's a purposeful choice. It's not just a sideline. When everything's running along, just like, and people aren't really thinking about the soft expense of, I'm going to run out and buy something just on a whim. People that start businesses at that point have had very little constriction to when people start to really watch how they spend their money. So if you can start your business in a recession, one, you'll know really quickly as to whether or not it's going to get up and off its feet. And if you have it in you to get it up and off its feet, and to keep it running. And then two, when the recession is relaxed and it's over, we'll say, your business has got a really tangible, locked in customer base, people that want to be there. And then the word of mouth spreads, and that's where your business starts to grow up. But you already know what your limitations were when you started, both like your own personal resources, like mental capacity, physical capacity, but then your community's capacity too. So I think it's a really smart move. And honestly, for the luxury market and the services, in that tangent, it's very similar. Because if you're going to go into the luxury market, like my business is a weird one. It's very niche, like it's gluten-free foods. It's not mass produced, it's artisan quality. So I'm a luxury need, which is a service. And my clientele is very demanding. And we appreciate that. Sometimes you have to wonder why you're doing this to yourself. But we appreciate the clientele that have found a space and a home with us, that they depend on what we make. And it helps to make sure that we hold the quality to still be within this luxury need service market. So
great, great comments, Tara. And we haven't really talked about that idea of competition. How when you're the only game in town, or the downtown area is looking a little grim and there's only 3 of you left, like how that impacts the idea where when there's 100 businesses to choose from, where are they going to go? Paula, do you have any? You were talking a little bit about the downtown, and because you're a physical space, same as Tara, and what do you think? Starting a business now, a good idea? Should you wait? You didn't wait.
No.
You saw an opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I really also think that, service-based and non-essential industry. Yeah, I tell my team all the time, we can never take for granted our customers that come in and see the value. And it was interesting because even over the years, you end up seeing, during COVID, which, so my business is like 70% local, and usually I get about 30% of my business from the hotel, where when there was nobody in that hotel for months and months because of all the travel restrictions during COVID, our locals showed up for us. And, we were in people's bubbles where they weren't even seeing other people, but they were still coming to us, because that, social wellness that was really needed, that human connection, we've really, been able to see how important that was. But I also had to, with my team, if you're in a position of leadership, if you have staff, it's so important that they have that confidence and faith in you, because that's I think really was a big part of us as well, that they thought, okay, Paula's got it. She's got this plan where, everything's going to be okay. And it makes them feel a little bit more at ease about what they're doing as well. But I also think that, in the downtown core, I think you just have to be ready for things to change. And I guess if you're going to, pivot to whatever that is, if you had asked me 10 years ago if downtown was going to change, or people's perceptions of coming downtown were going to change to the degree that they have, I wouldn't have believed it. But you also have to try to think, well, how can I make things maybe a little bit easier for some of my customers? If, for example, a small example is if they park on the street because they don't want to go into the parkade, we're like, bring your ticket in for us. We'll run out and plug your meter for you if you need to. And what can we do to, just from a customer service perspective, make things a little bit easier for them? And the other thing too is, not only has it been difficult, obviously with COVID, not even being able to anticipate the additional stresses that the government would put on us for sick days. The other thing that, definitely wasn't planning on that, but financial, and certainly not against the concept. I'd love to be able to pay everyone to stay home every single time they're sick, but it's not realistic. But for them to just not have even waited until everyone was through COVID recovery, so you can just, and then major price increases from vendors, which then of course too, and obviously having to look at increasing wages. So how are you going to do that? How are you going to be able to try to maintain the level of business that you're doing, but increase your income to address all of these things?
No, great comments, Paula. I mean, when you think about it, like there's always pros and there's always cons. There's always, in a good economy and a bad economy, there's always winners and losers, or people that do better one way or the other. Great discussion, everybody. I mean, we're getting down there. I have a question for you, Tara, based on in good times and in bad times. I mean, entrepreneurs have different organizations or individuals that they turn to and, for support. And Tara, you were involved in a collaboration the day of our pre-call. You were a little bit late to the call because you had something that you had on. You said you were going to be covered in chocolate and you weren't. We were very disappointed. But can you tell us a little bit about the benefits of asking others for help or supporting people that maybe wouldn't be a non-traditional partner in a financial downturn or recession?
Yeah, I thrive on collaboration. So when we started the business, I actually had a business partner, and part of that is I am really creative and I spark a lot of ideas, and I'm generally not the best at follow through. Like, I love working with people, training them, and then delegating work to them, and then coming back and checking in on how they're doing. But if everything was dependent upon me to get everything done and for us to all be successful, it'd be a failure. 101 as an entrepreneur, do not do all the work yourself. Definitely learning how to be comfortable in delegating and allowing people to be creative with you. the collaboration piece that you're alluding to with Me Covered in Chocolate is there's a local bean to bar maker in Victoria. I love his work and I've worked with him for years and years and years. And then 2 years ago, we decided, oh, we should actually start collaborating, like make some of my product and make it as, it's called inclusions when you add things to chocolate and chocolate bars. So do some inclusions from the bakery into like specialty runs of the chocolates. And so the day that we had connected was doing this limited run for Valentine's Day. So almond macarons with rose in a really, really great Tanzanian chocolate. I mean, who wouldn't want that? It's so good. And it supports both our businesses because he's in a luxury market. He does bean to bar chocolates. It's not $1 chocolate bar or $1.50. It's the $9 chocolate bar. So how do you make room for people to collaborate and like really emphasize community is by not being in competition with people, but understanding the more that we reach out and the more we find ways to include different aspects of our like different industries actually really enhances what we bring to our customer base. I think when we focus too much on competition within industry, and it doesn't matter which industry you're in, you actually really limit your customer base. We are living in community with people. So the more people that you can bring in to work with you, the more access you have to all of those that are sharing in each other's businesses. And in the case of COVID or a recession or just business as usual, it is vital in all three of those scenarios. Like,
Yeah.
it's just kind of what keeps you going.
No, great comments, Tara. I mean, Paula, would you agree that it's sort of like it's when times tighten, when things get tough, is it better? Like, do people just naturally like kind of pull in and not want to talk to anybody and just do their business and hope they survive? Or is there some sort of an inclination to reach out to other businesses and see how everybody's doing and how we can help each other?
Yeah, we, so within the spa industry, the major spas on Vancouver Island, we formed our own group. And so there's, I think 16 or 17 of us that are in constant contact with each other. We're all on an email thread. Now there's only one other person and myself that actually own our spas. The rest are directors for hotel properties and things like that. So, the two of us kind of have skin in the game, which is, a little bit of a different perspective on some things. But we collaborate with each other, bounce ideas off of each other, and we refer each other. Considering 3 of those people in the group are all walking distance from where I am, we all refer each other. When we're full, we want to be able, just as for good customer service, we want to be able to refer somebody else. And because we're all different. So you have to figure out how to differentiate yourself. Well, we can make a referral to someone standing in front of us because we're fully booked and we want them to be able to find what they want. Like I said, all 4 of us are very, very different. So and that's the key too, to be able to really differentiate yourself. And that's one of the best things that you can do is you might offer the same thing as, somebody a few blocks away, but how are you going to be different?
And doing that intentionally, if I can build off of what Paul is saying,
Sure.
When you're in communication with those that would be considered your competition, when you develop those relationships, you can intentionally have conversations about how you're going to differentiate yourself. Like, hey, what are you actually specializing in? And like, what makes you and your team really sing throughout the day? Well, awesome. You should run and roll with that, but I'm not going to try to compete with you there. I'm actually going to bolster you by looking at these are the areas where we really thrive. And then you have ways that you're helping each other differentiate and really just improve upon what it is that you excel at while still being in the same market space.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, we're colleagues, not competition.
Right. So I think it's really important to remember that. And I think that is actually one of the things that really differentiates women in business from men in business or partnerships in business is there's like this thing, and it's not a myth, it's a sad reality that a lot of entrepreneurs, regardless of your gender, your base, your situation, we tend to think that we have to do this because we made the choice to do this alone, in quotes. We tend to isolate if we're struggling with something because we don't want to be seen as we're failing. You will drown unless you let somebody help you float. So like women in business tend to ask for help. We look for direction. We want to figure out a better way of going about something, not necessarily because we need to recreate the wheel or because we have to prove something. Maybe we do, but it's a much more welcoming environment when you realize that you don't have to do any of this alone. You can learn from each other. You can teach each other, or you could just be aware.
Yeah, I mean, the technical term is unique selling proposition. I mean, what makes your bakery different than others? What makes your spa different than others? What made my clothing store different than others? That's one thing. But the idea is the differences all kind of meld together if you've got a shopping district. Or even an online, if you're shopping online, there's going to be people that you refer to. Like, I don't have those in green, but I do know somebody else does, we're all stronger for that. So recession or not, I mean, basically the idea is don't be scared of competition because competition is actually good. And knowing that I was in a street front location where people had to pay for parking, it was much better if a car stopped with a woman in it and there were 4 places she could go to. She could get some fish and chips on the White Rock boardwalk. She could come to my place for a pair of pants. She could go next door and buy some fancy thing made of shells. And then she could go down the street to get a coffee. So, like we're all, I think, we have to think of ourselves as collaborators as well as, unique individuals with businesses.
Mhm.
Okay, so any questions? Netta, anything in the chat we should talk about, or should I? We've got about 5 minutes left or 10 minutes.
Yeah, we've got a little bit more time. And a question in chat: how do you do with hiring people in time of COVID or recession?
Hey.
I was even just going to say, actually, before too, though, is to, once you really have, that the vision for your business and really, I mean, for me, I don't just hire a person to fill a spot on my team. It has to be a good fit for us, or and it really has been challenging in terms of, for the first time ever, when I was hiring for a front end position, did someone actually no-show me for the interview, which has never happened. I mean, in 18 years before that, I thought, what's happening? Who does that? But apparently some people do.
Yeah.
So it's the changes, and there's been changes in terms of just work ethic and work, all different types of things. And so again, trying to adapt to what those changes are, and just making sure that what more are you offering for someone to be joining your team? It has to be a good fit. Like I said, I will not hire someone who isn't going to mesh with. I have 20 staff, so at this point, it's for me to bring in someone who's just definitely not going to gel with everyone. I won't do it.
Yeah.
I'm with Paula. I have 33, I think.
Yeah.
Sort of around.
There's a bunch of different things going on in my business. It's because there's a bunch of different things, there's a bunch of different priorities. And when you have 33 people, you have 33 personalities. Yeah. So we look at what skill are you bringing in, and you don't need to come in with a full skill set. We can teach you. But what mental space are you coming in? Like, how are you coming to work? How are you going to show up for the people you are choosing to show up with every day? And I agree with Paula, and anybody who's employing anybody out there right now has experienced it, so you probably don't need us to echo it too much. But priorities of how people will choose to show up, when they'll show up, and what they want to work on have drastically shifted, because everybody was told, think about yourself and then think about others. That drastically changes people's mindset and how they're going to approach work. And when you're told that repetitively over 2 years, collectively, it's impossible to expect that people are going to retain a different ideology about how they're going to show up for work or what they're going to choose to work at. We have people that have worked in industries, like singular industries, and they've moved around, maybe different companies, that have left those industries completely because they were given the opportunity to disengage and have said, wait a minute, I want to do this. So we have, when there's this comment, oh, where'd all the people go? Well, like, there's a lot of people out there, but they've changed industries. They've gone into silent industries. We're on a computer right now, and like, I think it's what 33% of our workforce is working from their home in their computers. So when you see people looking for physical jobs saying like, we have staffing positions available, a lot of the people are in these silent industries. You don't see them working when you used to walk into a store and see them working, right? Like, they're still out there, they're still employed, they're switching up their spaces. So looking for why people want to work for you, asking them intentionally, like, you're applying for a job, we're excited, we have this work for you. Why do you want to do this work? And why do you want to work for us? Why do you want to work here? And what are you going to bring into this team? How are you, like, what kind of work culture do you want to work in? And what are you going to bring to that every day? And when we have those conversations with people, it is really fast as to whether or not the interview goes yes or, oh, what do you mean? I was just going to show up. And it's like, yeah, but then that means you probably just won't show up at some point. So it's getting to know people and starting those relationships in the process at the very beginning of an interview process, not waiting until you've hired them to figure out if they're going to stick or not.
Because it's, and I'm sure as Tara, it's an investment.
Yeah.
That, and a lot of people maybe don't understand when they're applying for a job that on, the employer's perspective, it's, it's an investment for training and everything else. And that, so it does have to be, it has to be a good fit. And if that someone is looking for, kind of an opportunity rather than just to fill a space for something. Because I mean, I get resumes where someone has had 8 jobs in 2 years, which I immediately wouldn't even look at that even further. Whereas some of the younger generation think, oh, look what I've done. But it just shows me that you can't stay in a job and I'm just going to be your next stop. So I definitely would not even entertain an interview. So it's, it's definitely changed. And I think that with, the younger generation, I think, years from now, though, it could become a little bit of a challenge for them to understand that, really what employers are looking for. Some of the jobs that people are doing at home are not going to last forever. Those people will want to re-enter the workforce in some way. And I think that it's going to be interesting because, the work ethic today has just completely changed.
Yeah.
Well, not completely. I mean, there's still great candidates out there. Don't get me wrong, but.
Oh, there's lots. There's lots of great candidates. It's just understanding we no longer have this idea that we provide work and people are privileged to work for us. Like, it's a privilege to have people working for you. It's a benefit both ways. And unfortunately, the pendulum right now is on, it's a privilege for you to hire me. So so we're in a position that if you are going to employ people, if you haven't started your business, if you're thinking about all this, really, really think about how much you know about HR. Like, what do you know about human resource management? And if you don't know about this, and you want to go into business that will require you to work with even one other person, do some work, look at the WBC webinars in HR, get some simple understandings of what that management looks like. Because if you're going to business with yourself, it's the business, it's the commodity, it's the customers, it's all that. If you're going to be working in business with people that you're hiring, you're actually doing HR management, and that will take up a third of your time. If you're really good at it, it's going to take about a third of your time.
Definitely. And, I think we've all lost a step with COVID, face-to-face wise or, socially wise. And I just find now that, people that I talk to, they say that, again, there's this unwillingness to actually engage with other people because we got so used to just engaging with a screen. And who would have thought that that would have been one of the byproducts of COVID? But honestly, it's it's a wave, right? So, okay, we've got just a couple of minutes left. Netta, you think I should start wrapping up, or is there another question?
We have two more great questions in chat, so can we take them very quickly?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you approach other businesses for industry information or help?
I'll just say quickly that, when I had my store, I had, again, I think Tara was saying and Paula was saying, the idea that, you have to be bold enough to talk to your competitors / collaborators and, make the first move. They might be just as worried to talk to you as you are to them, but a simple question like, how is business? Man, Friday was so slow. Was it slow for you? It was, I was gonna get the ball rolling. I don't know what you two think.
Oh, totally. Just be straight up, be direct. I'm actually, and I may not come across this way right now, but I'm in this little comfort zone. I'm pretty shy when it comes to just reaching out to people. I don't do it really fast. But the more you do, the more you understand that other people are, they're trying to change the game as much as you are. They're trying to be creative, think of new solutions. And you never know when you're going to say something that's going to spark an idea for another person. If you're thinking about being an entrepreneur or you are an entrepreneur, you have a lot of creativity already. There's something that's already generating in you. So reach out and talk to people, figure out what they're winning at and what they're struggling at. And you're going to find that there's a lot of different sparks that help both of you move forward.
Right.
But just go for it. Just be direct.
Yeah, I think too that there's, I'm definitely too way more of an introvert than an extrovert. But in the beginning, there are usually other networking groups that you can join. I remember doing many years ago, the business networking at the BNI meetings, breakfast meetings, we were referring each other's businesses. There's usually industry associations, that you can join as well, or even, other groups. There's someone out there that is doing what you're doing, and there are ways to connect in terms of just, wanting to get, just being able to connect with other people that are kind of in the same. So I would even just look for, some of the other type of industry groups and associations that there are.
Yeah, we used to do fashion shows, and my fashion show was free at Friday at lunch, and my other competition fashion show was sometimes a swanky thing with a $20 ticket twice a year. We all went to each other's fashion shows just to see what was going on, who was there, and if we had crossover customers. So it was fantastic. You just, if it's a social setting and you're not going into it super serious, tell me what you did last month, or gee, how's this supplier working out for you? Questions like that are going to scare everybody away, but basically, just be friendly. Okay, Ned, you had another question?
We have another one. It's a big one, but we'll have to take it very quickly. It's about pricing.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my stresses currently is around raising prices with the threat of recession. The price hikes on my end are justified. But how does the public receive it?
Great question.
They might call you a thief.
Sarah, you go ahead and tell your story.
I say that because you have to charge what you have to in order to stay in business, unless you want to change into a nonprofit model, which you could. There's a lot of benefits in that too. But the story that we were having in conversation before the beginning of this webinar was some pieces around the whole idea of pricing. And when we adjust our prices, we try to do it as infrequently as possible. We want to make sure that we're giving the quality and the approach for the customers and knowledge. But as Paula said earlier, price increases have been substantial across the board, whether it's labor incentivized by the government's additional pieces that we need to put into labor, the actual ingredients or the shipping costs to get those to us, and then just general operating, like hydro went up, you know, business taxes go up. So you have to charge what you need to charge in order to remain relevant and successful within your business. We made an increase, and there was a social media post about like blah, 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 blah. And then you get those lovely reviews that come in. And one review was like, you should be in jail. You're a thief. I can't believe that you could justify asking this much money for your product. I really think you need to understand how big of a thief you are. And it was like, well, okay. I mean, I didn't say you had to come in and buy the product, but like, good to know that feedback. You need to have a thick skin, because you're always going to be challenged on the price that you set, because there's always going to be a bigger fish within your industry that is going to charge less, because they're working on scale. They're looking at how much they can sell at a reduced price to make the same margin that you need to make at a smaller scale. So if you're worried about that price point, just make sure it's justified with the actual quality of your service and the unique ability that you have with your customer base, that those that are selling it at a lower rate don't. And like, that's your justification. It's the experience of working with small business that helps to justify the price that you need to put on that product. And then the other side of that is, when people give you bad feedback, have a really good sense of humor about it.
Don't get into fights on social media.
No, don't. Like,
Don't do it.
I've never responded to those comments ever. I mean, I have a wonderful marketing manager who, when needed, does. But we don't engage. And you really need to understand that, like, you don't have to engage when people are being negative with you about pricing. You're never going to be able to compete on that leg. You compete on the quality and the service.
Yeah, you know, we had to do a price increase, which, you know, over the years, we've really, I mean, I just don't take a price increase lightly. We don't do them that often. But I, you know, say, for example, my lease renewal is up at the end of this year. I signed 5-year leases with the hotel, my landlords, and there's a rent increase coming. And so for, you know, those next 5 years, that increase, you know, just understanding what you need to generate to come up with those net profit dollars to be able to address certain things. You know, you have to understand your numbers per month and what you need to, you can't just ever kind of get complacent and not pay attention to that, because, you know, then it is an opportunity to look at what are the more, you know, profitable aspects that help you generate that versus, you know, just being able to sort of plan. Like, and, you know, my landlords have been, you know, like in this past 5 years, especially through COVID, you know, they definitely appreciate having a good partner. You know, so I think being able to, this was unavoidable that I'm going to get this increase. Like, I thought, oh, thank you. This is, you know, but I also understand but they have costs too. And, you know, at least I was able to negotiate something that was more, don't forget, you can always negotiate with things like that too. So I was able to negotiate something that was more reasonable, and at least also just kind of showing them too that, yeah, I still want to be their partner, but I'm not at this stage of the game, like 20 years later, I'm not in it to just be, you know, scraping scraping by. Like my particular industry is a very low margin industry. I always have to be careful, watching what I'm doing. So it's, it's just, yeah, but don't be afraid to price accordingly, because if you don't, you're going to end up finding yourself with the extra stressor that you're not making ends meet. But I think as far as explaining to your customers too, we've had to do a price increase because unfortunately I got it from my vendors. These 5 things have increased for me. Yeah, but I really appreciate your business. Put a loyalty program in place. Do something else that is maybe lower margin for yourself that you can reward your loyal customers and show that they meet how much you care about them and that they do support you. Like, just find other little ways that don't cost you a lot of money to show them that you care.
Yeah, well, great comments, both of you. I mean, you shouldn't apologize for making a living. And basically, you also shouldn't assume that your customers will be upset if you have a price increase. You're probably upset you have to do it. But from a perspective point of view, most of the time, if you've got loyal or regular customers, they understand, and moving to someone else rather than absorbing your increase and understanding they're supporting a local business sometimes is enough, so yeah, but I really think, there's no point in not raising your prices and then starting to lose money, because that is not a sustainable business model at all.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say to add on that is make sure that while you're doing these price increases, you're a part of your business. Don't price yourself out of your business. If you were working, something that I always tell the people that I do in mentoring is, if you were working for somebody else, what would your anticipated need be right now for you? Like, if you were just go and take a job doing something that you're doing right now for yourself, how much would you demand that they pay you for what you're doing? And think about why you would ask that.
Yep.
Right. So just make sure when you're doing those price increases, you keep yourself in mind just as much as you keep the landlords or the ingredients or the staffing. Like, you are integral to your business. Don't price yourself out of it.
Great point. Yeah. Okay. All right, Netta, I think we're just about done, unless there's any more questions. How's everybody doing? This has been incredible. Thank you so much, everybody, for participating in the chat. 48 comments in the chat. Fantastic. I can see some of you have already made connections, which is great in your industry or aside. So I'm going to stop my screen share. And I think I'm going to thank everybody, which would be great. There we go. Oops. There we go. Oh, I've done something wrong. Oh, there it is. No. Oh, Netta, I'm lost in space now. Let me do that again. Okay. No. Okay. So I think what I'm going to do is just thank everybody for being here. And here we go. Oh, hang on. Just let me try and get back. Oh, there we go. I'm out of there. Okay. Thank everybody for coming today. And I'm going to zoom through. And I want to say that Tara and Paula were fantastic today. And again, we're going to share their email if you have a specific question for them. If you've got a question that you want WeBC to answer, we're happy to do that. And we'll give you our email as well, all of our contact information. And yeah, thanks very much, everybody, for being here. These are some of the new things, or the things coming up. Building your HR strategy toolkit. The woman who asked that question, this is a fantastic series. And we've got another one on supplying goods and services to the government, which is, again, a great opportunity for a lot in businesses. Okay, and yeah, thanks very much for joining us. If you want any more information, again, we're going to do a feedback poll, and in the feedback poll, you can suggest another webinar. But I just want to thank everyone for joining us today. Stay in touch, keep in touch. That's what one of the things we learned today is downturn or not, we're all still here in business. And otherwise, any final thoughts, ladies? Thank you very much for being here, Tara and Paula.
Thanks for having me. I'd just like to say that HR toolkit piece, if you have people that work for you, they can take those webinars too. I have 4 of my management staff that are actually taking that 3-part HR thing. So awesome stuff.
Yeah, great.
And I would just add, just remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
Just, you know what, you're going to have times where you're frustrated. You just think, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this anymore. This is too hard. And that's okay to feel that temporarily. You just can't stay there. And you've just got to, just believe in yourself.
Yeah, and unfortunately or fortunately, maybe it's a learning experience, maybe it's not. This is not going to be the last downturn you're going to be in business, if there is in fact a downturn. So again, anything you've learned from this or anything else that you can learn, it's all grist for the mill, and it'll make it a little bit easier next time. So
yeah.
Anyway, I think I am gonna say bye to everybody, and thank you very much for being here. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Happy Valentine's Day if anybody's so inclined, and you will receive an email in the next couple of days with a recording of the session. So thank you, everybody. It's been wonderful.
Okay. Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.